this case in Freeport, this police officer really had no choice but to pull the trigger because he was shoot.
It's an exclusive, revealing interview with community activist Quanell X about an officer-involved shooting. Good evening. I'm Eric Barajas.
And I'm Alona Carson. Thank you for joining us. Quanell X says that an officer-involved shooting in Freeport yesterday that left a man dead appears to have been justified.
That admission from the community activist is in sharp contrast to other cases of officer-involved shootings. Eyewitness News reporter Tracy Clemens in our newsroom with a story that's all new at 6:30 tonight. Tracy?
Yeah, Quanell X surprised a lot of people yesterday when he said the officer didn't have a choice when he shot Ron Sneed inside that Freeport apartment. Today we sat down for a few minutes to talk more about that with Quanell X, and he also opened up about what this officer-involved shooting taught him.
Many of these shootings, officers should be indicted for killing these unarmed men. But in a case like this, I don't think protests are warranted. And I believe that we should pray for the police officers as well as the family involved in this case.
Shocking words to some from Quanell X, the activist considered by many to be one of the most controversial figures in Houston. X says he heard several stories about the shooting while he was on the way to Freeport Wednesday, but he got the real story straight from Ron Sneed's girlfriend, who told him she woke up to a gun in her face.
She said when the police came in, the police told him, put the gun down, put the gun down. And he said no. Then turned the gun back toward her head and pointed at her head. And that's when the police officer fired the shots to kill him.
X tells me Freeport's police chief let him see the crime scene, and that went a long way.
The way he worked with the community instantly to deal with what was happening. The way he gave me unprecedented access to a lot of the facts that I could see for myself. Was able to suppress and quell a lot of the anger, the frustration, and the desire to riot.
As Ron Sneed's family deals with his death, upset that the officer didn't use pepper spray or a taser, and that officer deals with the fact that he took a life to save one, Quanell X says it reminded him that jumping to conclusions helps no one.
It was a learning experience for me to make sure that we, as leaders of our people, we have to make sure that as quick as we possibly can, gather as much of the facts as we can and be very skeptical of what you hear. Investigate the facts for yourself as best as you can, as quick as you can, then take a position.
Quanell X also talked about the problems many perceive in the relationship between predominantly black communities and police and how both can make some changes to fix it. Hear that and more with more of his interview on our website, abc13.com.
What made you say what you said yesterday?
When I first got the call that the young brother had been gunned down, I said to myself, this has to stop. Too many young black men are being killed, unarmed, by law enforcement officers. So as I was going, I was very angry. And some of the people in the family were texting me saying, we're going to riot out here. And I told them to hold on and wait until I get there. And I had heard several different versions of what had happened in the shooting involving this young brother. When I got there, I was able to gain access to the crime scene. Law enforcement did not object, shockingly, to me seeing the crime scene of the apartment. Well, instantly, when I was in there for the first 5-10 minutes, I automatically knew two of the stories that I had been told about what happened to the young brother were not true. One story was he was shot sitting on the sofa with the children sitting next to him, and the cop kicked the door in. Second story was cop kicked the door in, they wrestled in the front room, the brother ran from him, cop shoots him in the back and kills him. Well, when I went into the apartment, there was no blood spatters whatsoever anywhere in the living room or the kitchen area. There were no bullet holes. All of the blood splatters, which was a lot, and the bullet holes were in the bedroom. So I automatically knew those stories were not true. And I saw from the blood spatters on the wall and the floor and the bullet holes that whatever took place, he was not standing completely up. He was at a downward position. So then I automatically said to the brothers who were with me, find someone who actually saw the police kick the door open. They bring me a young woman, and she said, no, the police didn't kick it open. I was standing right out here when he came by. He came by and lammed on the door, looked in the window, they wouldn't open the door. She said he kicked the door open. Now, this is a completely different story from what I've been told coming down and what I was actually hearing once I pulled up. So I was able to speak with two of the individuals who were actually inside the apartment, the girlfriend and her daughter, when the shooting took place. And she explained to me, both of them in detail, what happened. Said he kicked the door open because he was concerned and he was angry and upset, and there was some jealousy issues going on between the two of them about some text messages. The girl said when he came in, the child said, "Where's your mama?" The little girl said out of fear, she said, "She's in the back room." He goes straight to the back room, and 911 is called. Then the girlfriend said to me, "Mr. X, when I woke up, he had a gun in my face." And I said, "Was the gun real?" She said, "Yes, it was real." She said when the police came in, the police told him, "Put the gun down. Put the gun down." And he said, "No." Then turned the gun back toward her head and pointed at her head. And that's when the police officer fired the shots to kill him. So after looking at the crime scene, speaking to one particular eyewitness who had never been interviewed by police, who told me it was him that kicked open the door, then speaking with the young woman and the girlfriend who were actually in the apartment when it happened, I learned the facts of the story. And after meeting with police and the police chief, I have to give him credit. He was absolutely very open and transparent about this investigation. He was not arrogant. He was not disrespectful. He was open. He was willing to share with us what he could based on what he knew, because the county had taken over investigation from his own department. But he shared very factual information with me that coincided with what I was able to see inside the apartment complex, the young woman I spoke to, and the two other witnesses I spoke with who were actually inside the apartment when it happened.
So pretty much people, he said, she said, then next thing you know, it got into, would you say the story kind of just morphed into something completely not true?
Not true.
Okay.
And so it was a learning experience for me to make sure that we, as leaders of our people, we have to make sure that as quick as we possibly can, gather as much of the facts as we can, and be very skeptical of what you hear. Investigate the facts for yourself as best as you can, as quick as you can, then take a position.
Do you feel like sometimes people, you say this is a learning experience. Do you think that you've gone into situations without doing that before yesterday?
There was a time in my activist career that I would take witness statements as the gospel and say that's exactly what happened. And I would stand on that, believing and trusting that everything that my brothers and sisters are saying to us is true. But I've learned over the years, sometimes much of what people tell you, what happened, is not always actually what happened. And so we have to be very careful of what people tell us and look deeply into everything.
Defending his girlfriend.
This was a case to where the police officer, in this case in Freeport, this police officer really had no choice but to pull the trigger, because it was either shoot the suspect or allow him to kill this young woman. So he was doing exactly what he had been trained to do. And at that point, what a mother, somebody's daughter, and for the sake of those children, that police officer needed to do. I hate to say that about anybody losing their life, but this young brother, I believe, had made his mind up that that was the way he was going to go out. And I never probably would have said this before yesterday. I think that police chief in Freeport should be looked at as an example of how to handle a shooting dealing with some young African-American male. The way he handled the situation, the way he worked with the community instantly to deal with what was happening, the way he gave me unprecedented access to a lot of the facts that I could see for myself, was able to suppress and quell a lot of the anger, the frustration and the desire to riot and perhaps lead to looting, which is unfortunate. But that police chief made a magnificent move on the spot of how to deal with a situation like that, because even I was not expecting that. But when men of character and intelligence will see the facts, no matter where the facts lie, and stand on side of the truth, I think that's the middle ground. Truth should be the middle ground for the community and for the public and for the people. The truth is what we all should unite around. Black, white, brown, whatever your race is, whatever your class is, whatever the truth is what we should unite around. There shouldn't be two sides. There should be one side, the truth, and everybody side with the truth once we're able to gather all the facts.